So we're given this triangle here. Oh, and it is a right triangle. I should mark it as such. That's actually kind of important. That notation should be there. This is a right triangle. All the sides are given. We don't have the angles, but we're asked to just find the cosine of C. So the cosine of any angle in a right triangle is going to be a ratio. It's a ratio of some side lengths. So all the side lengths are given there. So we'll be actually able to give that full ratio. So I'm going to put a little mnemonic here on the this piece of paper. SOHCAHTOA. This is a made up but very common, very useful mnemonic that we use in trig, and it's going to help us determine what the ratios are for sine, cosine, and tangent. So the S, the C, and the T stand for sine, cosine, and tangent, the three trig ratios we use in integrated 2. The O, the H, and the A stand for opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. And so what it's doing is it's telling you what two sides make up each ratio. The sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the tangent is the opposite over adjacent. So for us right now, because they want the cosine of C, we're going to focus on this guy. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And since it's cosine of C, C is this angle, so we're going to go to C in the right triangle. And from here, what we want is the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So I always like to find the hypotenuse first because the hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse no matter where you are in the triangle. It's always directly across from the right triangle. So, or the right angle, excuse me. So 50 is our hypotenuse. The adjacent is going to be the leg, the side next to angle C. And that's why finding the hypotenuse is first, because sometimes we'll be like, well, there's two sides next to C. Well, this one we've already established has to be the hypotenuse. Adjacent and opposite are legs. They're the two sides that make up the right angle. So we want the leg next to the right triangle. And that absolutely has to be this one right here, which is 30. So that's my adjacent side. So then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to write that ratio. The cosine of C is the adjacent leg, which is 30, over the hypotenuse, which is 50. And then the only last thing I would need to do there is just simplify it. So the cosine of C, divide both of those by 10, is 3 over 5. And by the way, if you're not super fond of simplifying fractions in your head, this one's not bad, right? You should be able to look at that and say 10 goes into both of those numbers. 30 divided by 10 is 3. 50 divided by 10 is 5. But the calculator does it for you. If you just set your fraction in as a division problem, so 30 divided by 50, it's of course going to give it back to you as a decimal. But there is a feature that will allow you to go fraction to decimal in the calculator. It's a secondary feature. It's right above the probability button. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right where my pencil is pointing. It says F to D. So you do second, fraction to decimal, and you can see it's take the previous answer, fraction to decimal, it's going back and forth, and it's going to simplify it for you. So 3/5. The calculator will do it. You can do it based on what you're seeing, but in the end, the cosine of angle C here in this particular triangle is 3 over 5. Hope that's helpful. Message me anytime with questions.